Okay, well on.
All right, and welcome to Mythical Monster Investigations, episode 33, part 7. Ha, I'm keeping track this time.
Yeah, I have a
Well,
timer
this time.
on it so we can keep track of how long this is gonna be for us.
Oh, that's going to be depressing. All right, so we're on part 7 of our deep dive into angelology. And last time we finished our look into the biblically canon angels, or the information on biblical canon angels. So next we're going to look over non canon angelic information, which means looking at banned books of the Bible. Go ahead and switch slides.
Oh, the naughty
Starting,
books. I like it.
yeah, starting with the Book of Enoch, which Shadow R. Fox is way too excited about. Isn't that right?
Oh yes, I want to learn the angel alphabets. Talk about all the angels that slept with people and had these crazy giant children.
Okay, yes. And before we go over that, and before you hurt any more goats, we need to take a pause and go over textual authenticity.
It's all
Or
real, right? Yep, that's it, right? It's all real.
Or to put it simply, we need to discuss what is meant by banned books of the Bible and why they are banned. Now, I'm not going to lie, this is not the most interesting subject and it is rather tedious, but I think it is important to look into this in order to understand what we're looking at in terms of these books and what's written in them. When it comes to this subject, we could do several videos on it, but I don't think any of us want that. So I'm going to just try and give a rush highlighted version of the important parts. However, if biblical canon accuracy is your thing, the council meetings will be shown on the slides, which can be found on YouTube. So you can look further into this yourself if it's your thing. Go ahead
You,
and switch slides.
you're nicer than me. I thought you were just gonna tell them go to your local papal state or pope if you want context of why they removed it from the Bible.
No, I said I'm going to give accurate history. The Pope's not going to give accurate history. He's just going to say all evil damnation. And we're actually, and there's a whole thing with the Catholics and the Protestants too, which we're not going to get into. But no, if you want accurate stuff about the origin and the history of the Bible, you don't go to the Pope. That's the last person you go to. No offense meant to the Catholic Church, but yeah, we don't go to the Pope. Okay, now that I've pissed off every Catholic on the planet, that being said, let's get started. So we need to put on our library glasses, not any of the dirty kinds. We need to, start doing our most snooty looks around like we're better than everyone else. And we really need to get started with our scholarly work. Are you guys ready to act like scholars?
There's a reason I didn't go to college.
Okay, hang
Okay.
on. I did go to college. Let me get my glasses out. Well, I already got them on because I'm blind otherwise. Funny enough, I spent most of college in the library, so this is familiar to me.
Yeah. All right. So let's get started. So, a common criticism from atheists and bitter liberal feminists, and yes, there is a reason I'm mentioning that, when it comes to the Bible, is that the Bible was created to promote a patriarchal church society, and they banned anything that threatened their male-dominated agenda or power. Yeah, sounds like right. Now, it is true that several councils were formed to create the Bible that we have today. But as always, atheists and bitter feminists conveniently leave out context, which is what we're going to kind of speed through. First thing, banned books is a little ambiguous. You can find and read all of the texts that are banned or forbidden from the Bible, though some more zealous followers of Christianity, kind of like the Bishop of Egypt, did attempt to destroy them and burn them. But not all of them were like that. Now, what banned actually means in context of biblical canon is not official biblical canon. And that also depends on the Bible itself, because besides different translations, there are also different length Bibles. Go ahead and switch slides. For example, the Protestant Bible, including the popular King James Version, includes 66 books of the Bible. The Catholic Bible has 73 books of the Bible. And finally, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church contains a very large 81 books of the Bible. Okay, so why the discrepancy? Oh, on a side note, have either of you two ever heard of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church?
Yes.
Nope.
Okay. There's no real point to that. We're not going to really dive into them, but I was just curious. Anyway. Well, unfortunately, the best way to understand why there is this discrepancy in the number of books is to review how the modern Bible came to be. And again, I'm going to try and go at a fast pace through this, but it's going to be a minute. So here we go. Go ahead and switch slides. So the origin of the Bible actually begins in roughly 450 BC with the creation of the Tanakh, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing it that right, but I'm going to say that's how it is. Now, while this is kind of the original Old Testament, but it only actually contains 25 books, which is less than the current Old Testament. Now, what books it contain? Well, that's actually in the name. Tanakh is actually an abbreviation, kind of like Nabisco is an abbreviation for National Biscuit Company. And we're going to look at the pieces now. Go ahead and switch slides, which leads us to number 6. As the first of the 3 sections is the Torah, or Ta. Now, this book consists of the first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy.
Okay.
Sorry, I've never been able to say that properly without really looking at it. Deuteronomy. So the first 5 books of the Bible, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, uncontested, are the Torah. And go ahead and switch slides. Then we have the Na Portia, or the Nevi'im. Your guess is as good as mine about how you properly pronounce that. But essentially, this is known as the Book of the Prophets, which holds the different prophets, such as Joshua, the Judges, 1 Samuel, 1 Kings, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and the 12 minor prophets. Go ahead and switch slides, which leads us finally to the Ka Portia, the Ketuvim. Again, your guess is as good as mine on how to properly pronounce that. But again, you can see where the name comes from is just literally these 3 words kind of abbreviated and stuck together. And these contain the books of Psalms, Proverbs, Job, Song of Songs, Ruth, Lamentations, Ecclesiastics, Esther, Daniel, the Ezra Nehemiah, and First Chronicles. And these are what make the Tanakh, which is not greatly disputed for a few reasons. First, the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, or, well, in this case, Jewish lore, were considered sacred and therefore under strict laws of scripture recording. For instance, when they were recording this, when they were writing it down, where they were transferring it from one parchment to another because the old one was getting old, they had to say it out loud to make sure they were writing it correctly. Any mistakes that were made, they had to start over with the whole thing, and even the smallest change, like a change in tense, like from who to whose or whom, there had to be an entire petition which was recorded before you could make this change. So it was very highly regulated, which was confirmed by the Dead Sea Scrolls and other such works. So no one actually disputes the first 5 books of the Bible because it was so meticulously recorded. Make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so the next books are there in correspondence with Deuteronomy 18, 20, 22, which basically says that a prophet of the Lord is only a prophet. Beware false prophets, and a prophet is only a prophet of the Lord if what he prophesies comes true. So basically, if a prophet makes a prophecy and it doesn't come true, he's not a prophet. That's basically what Deuteronomy said, and that is how we get the second book. And that is that's the book of the prophets, which basically all these are there because what they written and what they said before it happened came true. So Joshua, all of them, what they stated or what was written before it actually happened came true. So that's how that part was verified. And that's why it's there. Clear enough?
Yeah.
Okay. And let's see. They come hence the prophets. And the final portion must meet historical and religious doctrine. So, wisdom and history. So those must fit with the rest of the books and match the same tone. So that's the criteria. And I want to keep in mind that criteria was extremely strict. Now, this compendium was more or less left alone due to the rather isolationist and elitist attitude of the Jews. Because that's the thing. The Jews really didn't argue or try to prove their Torah or their 5 books or anything else because it was sacred law to them. And they had this kind of we're the chosen people attitude, and anyone else who didn't is a Gentile non-believer. So a little stuck up. So that's why no one really went into great detail in questioning these books, especially the Jewish people. No offense to Jews, but I'm sorry, this is factual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, this changed, however, with the introduction of Christ and his all are welcome, all can be part of the chosen message. And now, the early church did not have a Bible. They spread Christ's words through word of mouth, through messages, and through writings, actually very similar to how the Jews acted, to where they would also just have scrolls and writings of wisdom and not question it. So they did not have a Bible. Now, the creation of, so they had letters and writings like Matthew, Mark, and Luke, things like that. Some of the early Gospels, but they weren't part of any particular codex. Clear on that so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So the creation of the Bible, go ahead and switch slides, really started in 85 AD. Like the story begins, this isn't the first Bible created, but it begins in 85 AD with a man named Marcion of Sinope. Is that how you say that? Like Marcion of Sinope?
I'd say so.
I think so, if I remember so correctly.
Okay, well, anyway, minor character, but had a big impact. What he did was he published the earliest version of the New Testament. Unfortunately, his version reflected his rather weird ideas, which included Jesus being a separate divine being than God and the Father, and that Paul was the only true apostle. Hence his version heavily focusing on Paul's letters and almost excluding the other disciples. And as well, it had 2 forged letters of Paul written by Marcion himself. And unfortunately, the worst of all was that this particular version contained the Gospel of Marcion, which was his rewriting of the Gospel of Luke. Yeah, so thoughts, questions?
I vaguely recall someone tried to add their own gospel. Well, multiple people tried to add their own gospel, but I recall one of the earlier writer of the Bible tried to add their own gospel.
Yeah, probably him. Okay, now, to the credit of the early church, he was discovered fairly quickly and he was kicked out and condemned. Which, again, this was a minor incident, but he highlighted an early problem. Go ahead and switch slide. Fakes. Fake gospels and works being sold by con men who promise secret knowledge and various other things. Because like today, well, we talked in other videos about the absolute appeal and, cash grab of holy relics, the various holy grails around the world, the various spears of Longinus. People were going nuts for holy grail, for not holy objects. They were also going nuts for gospels. So many opportunists would create fake gospels and they would attach the prophets' names to it in order to sell them, which is why you have quite a lot of fake gospels by the name Gospel of Peter or Gospel of James, stuff like that. So basically, there was a lot, and all of them promised secret knowledge. Now, Marcion, while one of the many represented, while many represent, let me try that again. While one of many represented the catalyst for the early church to create a canon New Testament. This is where they got and said, you know what, we really kind of need to do something about this, and started to figure out how to make this. Now, to solidify their not to solidify their power as claimed by atheists and bitter feminists, but in fact to combat dis or misinformation. So this was actually the creation of the Bible, in a way, was one of the earliest disinformation campaigns. Which, I don't know, I found that kind of interesting when you think about it, but well, what do you guys think?
I mean, yeah, it just like it for anyone who studied the Bible, they understand that the reason a lot of the books were banned was they were trying to create a sense of cohesion between all the various groups, because even now when we got Protestant, non and denominational, back then they had even it was like dozens and dozens and dozens of different factions, because everyone told the Bible by word of mouth rather than by actual text. So there was different iteration. That's why what's that African tribe that think they're a lost Jewish tribe.
I know who you're talking about.
I
don't
think
know
they're
what they're called.
Ethiopians or something like that too,
It
or
might be
something.
the Ethiopians, but
Well, anyway, like there's a tribe of African tribe that swear up and down that they're one of the lost Jewish tribes that broke off from, I think, during the time after the exile from Egypt. If the Exodus from Egypt, I believe, is when they said this tribe broke off during their time in the wandering the desert and went the other direction into Africa.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't look great. I know what you're talking about. I did not look greatly
I
into
may
it.
be butchering it a little bit, but essentially, you have that, and their version of what happened in the events of the Bible is much different than you would get from those who, are closer to Israel or something like that.
Yes, and actually that's a good point, and we'll reflect on that a bit later because I want you to hold on to that. And go ahead and switch to the next slide. So, like I said, I'm just kind of throwing dates and numbers at you, but I am getting to a point, so bear with me. And hey, we're making good progress so far. So, an early attempt at this creation of the Bible can actually be seen in 100 AD with the Muratorian canon. Murator is, again, I am butchering these words, so your guesses on how to say these are as good as mine. Zed, you're usually better at pronouncing words that I have no idea how to say. How would you do that?
I would probably say either Muratorian or Muratorian.
Whichever.
Yeah,
okay. So this is one of the earliest versions of a attempt to create a New Testament discovered. Now, while it is not perfect and does lack several gospels that are canon and has one or two that are not considered canon, its dating shows how early they were actually trying to do this, as it was a mere 150 years later after Christ's death and resurrection, which goes against the narrative that the Gospels were written like 200 to 300 years after Christ was alive or died. In fact, they were written and recorded. In fact, some of the Gospels were written and recorded as early as 60 AD, less than 60 years afterwards. So that is something that has been shown, especially in the early Gospels that were already confirmed, which will be part of the doctrine that we'll look at later. Okay, so go ahead and switch slides again. Now, the Bible canon really takes root in 313 AD with the Edict of Milan, where Constantine the Great, the first Christian emperor, even though technically he didn't become a Christian until the day he died, made Christianity legal throughout the Roman Empire, which allowed the churches to finally be able to publicly create a biblical canon. And this led to various councils being formed. the most significant being the First Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, the Synod of Hippo in 393 AD, which had nothing to do with actual hippos, oddly enough, and the Council of Carthage in 397 AD. Each of these contributed in some way to the creation of the modern Bible. Now, the question is, how did the early fathers determine what should and should not be in the Bible? Of course, the argument of atheists and bitter feminists is that they excluded anything that challenged biblical ideal. Now, there is actually some truth in that statement, though, as usual with their arguments, they leave out some very important context. In reality, the early fathers had specific criteria they stuck to. Go ahead and switch slides. And that being 4 particular bits of criteria that were most important. The first one is that it must have been authored by an apostle or someone close to an apostle. Now, this was very important because these books were some of the early books that had to be verified on it. Someone close to the apostle, kind of like Luke and them, who were not apostles, but they say that within the actual Gospels. And they tell that these were eyewitness accounts. So they were ones that were actually gathering information and were close to them. Now, 2, it must have been accepted by the early Christian churches, because the early Christian churches who had these basic ones had them from the beginning, and these were some of the word of mouth and the early letters that started with it. And number 3, contains consistent doctrine. Should be simple enough, right? Now, the final 4th one is that they match the moral and spiritual values of Christ and the Holy Spirit. So again, what we see is not a power doctrine, but an attempt to preserve literary accuracy and reliability, which when you look at books such as the Book of Enoch, for instance, which we'll be going over in greater detail a bit later, or the Book of Adam and Eve, or even the Gospel of Judas, these all fail in various criteria to give, on all various criteria. Now, to give a kind of modern day example, think if you were like trying to construct the Lord of the Rings book from the 3 books, the Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Towers, and the Return of the King. Like, let's say you didn't know that those 3 books were supposed to be in it. So let's say you knew for sure about Lord of the Rings and then the Fellowship of the Ring, and then the Two Towers, and then you were unsure about Return of the King. And in one version of Return of the King, Frodo falls through a portal, leaves Sam, ends up on the Death Star, is able to wield force powers, and starts fighting Darth Vader. Now, do you think possibly that book might be a little off?
No, that made logical sense to me.
Okay, I know you're a Star Wars fan, but come on.
Well, look, there's the World Between World, which has time travel, and they show alternate universes technically. So
Don't you complain about that?
So, Frodo just tripped and failed, and he ended up there on the Death Star. I can find a universe where this happened.
You complained about this with the Acolyte for them changing the lore so much.
I want to see an army of orc stormtroopers.
Now, while that would be awesome, in all seriousness, you see my point.
Yes.
So this is what. So it's actually reasons like that these are excluded, because one thing is that they often contain contradictions, and the verified sources, but they often contradict themselves. And oftentimes these things have various fantastical elements that just don't make sense. In one gospel, there's actually a duel between Peter and Simon the magician.
I know this one.
Yeah, where Peter is said to actually call upon the power of God and fly around the entire city.
And then the magician tried to do it, and Peter prayed, and then he fell to his death.
No, he fell and he was crippled.
Oh, okay. I thought he fell to his death.
In one version, he fell to his death. In another, he was crippled.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I know, so much better. But yeah, so the Gospels that weren't included have certain overly fantastical elements like that. And so that's one thing. Also, some can just blatantly contradict themselves. For example, the Book of Adam and Eve, which, or the Conflict of Adam and Eve, if you prefer, which, out of curiosity, have either of you two ever heard of that one?
This isn't the one with Lilith, is it?
No, Lilith.
Okay.
Okay, so slight side note: Lilith being the first wife of Adam is nonsense. That was a 13th century fan fiction um, book that came out around the Middle Ages. It's never had any biblical accuracy. Lilith was actually the name of a pagan demon in the Bible. Like
Yes.
there's no Lilith as Adam's first wife. That's nonsense. That was a bunch of crap they made up in the 1300s.
Then the Book of Adam was this one the book where we're referring? It went into more detail of what Adam and Eve was doing in the garden prior to the
Um,
first sin.
Opposite actually.
Okay.
This takes a greater look into Adam and Eve's life after they leave the garden.
Okay.
Okay, so interesting enough, but it paints a very different picture. But one of the contradictions, I mean, is that, Adam is complaining to God that life is so hard because he has to work the fields and everything. But Adam actually gets sick, and the only thing that can make him feel better is a type of anointed oil which is found in the garden. So he has one of his sons sneak into the garden, get the oil, and bring it back to him,
That's
which
a talented
contradicts.
son. He got past the angel.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, because that contradicts with the angel's freaking guarding it, and he's saying that a kid managed to sneak past an angel and a flaming sword. So
That
that's a big contradiction there.
maybe that was Abel. Maybe that's why Cain had to kill him. He was too sneaky.
No, Abel was already dead at this point.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe this is a deeper lure to Cain and Abel. This is because we know Cain was a bad liar because God saw through him. So I figured maybe Abel was the good liar and the good thief, so he was able to sneak into the garden.
Yeah, no, but these are the things that actually are why these books are banned, because they are right. They don't fit the tone, but that's not because of trying to establish a like male hierarchy or a male priority or anything like that. It's actually legitimately because it doesn't fit the story, and it goes against doctrine that Christ was teaching about faith and accountability. Not because we were trying to create a world where women are slaves, says bitter, angry feminists. Sorry, I've had this argument with way too many bitter feminists.
Oh, don't worry, feminists. You keep believing Lilith was the first wife of Adam, and she only got kicked out because she was too much woman for him. You keep believing that.
Yeah, it just goes to show you, obnoxious women of all centuries couldn't keep a man.
Don't let him keep you down, girlfriend.
Neither of you two are helping. I hope you both realize this.
Okay, in my defense, I'm not trying to help. I don't mind pissing off bitter feminists.
I'm aware of that.
I've always heard the whole. I didn't know where the whole Lilith being the first. Like, I knew Lilith was a demon. Like, because I'm like, I remember Lilith was originally a.
Yeah, canonically, she's a pagan demon.
It was because I like my understanding of Lilith before this whole thing was Lilith was a demon that came about in the medieval time period, and it was a female demon that would drain the life force and would use as a boogeyman for children.
Yeah, she is older than that, but her story did evolve for that. Before she was just a generic demon, then later on she became more of a succubus character. And then in the 13th century, it came into this whole writing about Lilith being the first wife of Adam, which
Yes.
it's actually a fascinating story about how that rumor kind of snowballed, which there's some videos on YouTube about if anybody's interested. But it is all nonsense.
The Cliff Note version of it was there's one verse that offhandedly mentioned a demoness name by the name of Lilith, and someone just took it and wrote fan fiction with it.
Yes, no, that's the oversimplified
Yeah,
version.
wasn't that the very... Because I vaguely recall there is a very small verse that referred to... And it's not even directly, it's like offhandedly like describing something going, and the children would wander the earth, fearing the creatures like Lilith type deal. Like, it was something like very vaguely offhanded. Like, it was using her as almost an adjective to describe hardship. and
Yes.
people took that and say, oh, well, they're referring to a demon that's named Lilith. We gotta give it a backstory type deal.
Yes,
If
and
memory serves
actually,
correctly.
that's going to come up later on in this as we'll take a look. Okay, so yeah, but that's why these books are banned, is because of various contradictions. And that's a good reason why. Okay, so believe it or not, all of this is a great oversimplified explanation of biblical canon. Now, I did not mention the Reformation by Martin Luther, and if you want more info on that or any other of these, there's plenty of videos and books that you can look up. So, the reason I need to mention this is so we understand what we're looking at as far as non canon accounts. While not biblical, they show us the mindset of ancient peoples and their interpretations of the overly vague accounts given by the Bible, especially in regard to angels, which is what we're looking at. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so hey, congratulations. How long have we been in this video so far?
31 minutes exactly.
Okay, we just went through like literally hundreds of years of biblical history in just 30 minutes. Not bad, right?
We should have made this shorter. It should have been able to fit within a 1 minute short.
How the hell would we have fit it in a
That's
1 minute
my
short?
job to do now. I gotta figure out how to make this work.
Oh,
It's gonna
God,
be
what have
something
I
like.
done?
And
Okay, well,
here's
you have fun editing this down to where we all say one letter.
it's gonna literally be arguments saying, and here is the history, and then that's the end of the skit.
You know what? I'll take that because I'm slightly afraid you're going to do something that's going to get us excommunicated. We're just going to be sitting there going, we're not even Catholic. Okay, go ahead and switch slides. All right. And with that being said, let's take a look at the Book of Enoch, possibly the most famous non-canon book of the, well, I guess, quote-unquote Bible. Except, however, in the Ethiopian Bible, who does have it. So, okay, so quick notice, the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, the reason it has so many books is because they literally include everything. Canon and non-canon.
Yes.
So every book of the Bible, whether it's been discredited or not, is in the Ethiopian Bible, including the Book of Enoch.
That's how I knew about it, was because I knew the Ethiopia. When you say it had the most books, I'm like, okay, that's the book of the Bible where they literally took every book that they ever took out and just shoved it in there.
Yes, that is correct. That is absolutely correct. Okay, and so the Book of Enoch is actually 5 very separate books kind of stitched together, written by several authors over many centuries. Hence why it's a banned book or not part of biblical canon. Now, these 5 books include the Book of the Epistles of Enoch, which basically that's ethics and morals written by Enoch. The Book of Dream Visions, the Heavenly Luminaires or astronomy book, basically of stars. Then there's the Book of Parables, and the book that is of interest to us in this particular series, the Book of the Watchers, which, as most people know, expands on the Genesis account of the sons of God breeding with the daughters of men. Go ahead and switch slides. Now, before we look at this, we need to dispel some misconceptions in regard to the Book of Enoch. Now, the first we have mentioned in an earlier video, that the Catholic angelic hierarchy is not mentioned in the Book of Enoch. While Enoch does travel through heaven and mentions different layers of heaven, including one with fierce angelic warriors, he never gets into detail on their hierarchy or their ranking. He just says where they are on levels, but he doesn't give any classifications to, okay, this is a captain, this is a chief, blah, blah, blah. That's not in the Book of Enoch. While he does go through heaven, so it's a common misconception because he does go through it, and that's why. Now, second, which is going to break Shadow R. Fox's heart, while the Book of Enoch mentions spells, it does not give any explanations to the actual incantations. The spells most people think of, like the ones summoning succubuses, actually come from the Lesser and Greater Keys of Solomon, and not what we'll be covering in this series.
And that's why I remembered to put the Lesser Keys of Solomon on my Amazon wish list.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
We're getting there. This is gonna happen.
Am I really going to have to do a video on the Lesser and Greater Keys of Solomon?
Look, one of two things are gonna happen in the future. We're either going to get android girlfriends, or I'm gonna finally figure out how to summon succubus. One of the two is gonna happen, and I'm gonna help mankind.
Zed, help.
What do you want me to do?
I don't know. I don't know what to do. Think of something.
No.
Okay. All right, and final misconception. The angelic alphabet, better known as the Enochian alphabet, is nowhere in the Book of Enoch. That is a complete myth. It was, in fact, channeled in the late 16th century by the scientist and occultist John Dee, and it was given the name the Enochian alphabet to add legitimacy to it, even though it's actually complete nonsense. Comment?
Wasn't John Dee a failed alchemist?
Yes.
Okay. Because many of the symbols are alchemy symbols.
Yes, they are, but the Enochian alphabet is not in the Book of Enoch. Like it's literally made up. So it has nothing to do with Enoch. That's actually a myth. So sorry, Shadow R Fox, we will not be going over the Enochian alphabet.
Aww.
I mean, we can. You can have a video for that if you'd like, but it was literally channeled by this guy and greatly discounted, which is actually why one of the reasons why the Book of Enoch is also not biblical canon is because there's no proof that it was actually written by Enoch in the first place and was most likely attached to him to seem more legitimate. And the reason Enoch is attached to him is actually for one of the reasons that the Book of the Watchers is so interesting is because of an offhanded statement where Enoch is taken up into heaven in the canonical Bible. More people have questions about that, so they assigned this book to him. But in reality, it has nothing to do with it. It's literally just meant to give some legitimacy to it. Any statements on either of that?
People try to sign their names to different homework assignments, even in the past.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, Zed, I didn't ask. I meant to. As a more non-religious person, what did you think of the whole history of the Bible? Did you know it was that detailed?
No, but I could have guessed.
A lot of people couldn't, but more to it,
I
right?
probably couldn't have guessed all the details, but I could have guessed it wasn't as simple as this book was written by someone at this point and never once went through any amount of random interpretation.
Yeah. But my main thing is, based on my explanation, you see why those books were banned, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure. Like, I want to make sure that was pretty clear about why I mentioned it. Okay, so go ahead and switch slides then. So now so what does the book actually say? Now, we're going to be focusing on the Book of the Watchers, which expands upon the story of the Nephilim. It begins with a group of 200 angels who were assigned to watch over the people on Earth, hence being called the Watchers. Now, after doing so for quite a while, 10 chiefs and their leader basically agree to abandon their post and descend onto the immortal world, where they give in to lust and they take human wives. There's a whole thing about their leader trying to say, let's not do this, but then he gives in to, and then he makes everybody else get in. They make a pact, and they go down and they give in to lust, essentially becoming fallen angels. And since they fall to the sin of lust, you guys can kind of see the expansion from the original tale, right? You know, from the original Genesis mark of just that one short sentence. You see how this can, you see the expansion in this, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so this is where the Watchers become the villains of the story. And the most outrageous thing that they do, the most outrageously wicked thing they do, is siring the Nephilim. Go ahead and switch slides. The Nephilim are given far more detail in this than they are in the Bible, which is why a lot of people remember this. is here they're described as 400-foot tall giants who, according to Enoch in 726, became cannibals who turned on mankind and devoured men and beasts alike, which is fun. So they were basically wicked beyond redemption, destroying the world, which is kind of a theme we noticed when we were taking a look at the Giants episode. You guys notice is a lot of times the Giants, as justification for basically killing them, they were described as cannibals.
Yes, old barbaric
Yeah.
monsters.
Yeah. So you kind of see a theme with this and that. So I guess it's interesting if that was just cannibalism is the worst taboo, so they assigned it to anything they don't like, or there's this almost like biblical pre-thought about giants being cannibals. I'm not sure. What do you guys think?
Well, giants are often seen as the more barbaric versions of humans, but and that's the way they rationalize. Well, giants are bigger and have more strength than me. They clearly must be dumber than me because something that big and strong can't also be small. Otherwise, it's just completely unfair.
That's true.
And one thing that I also found a very strange common trend, it seemed like most or a lot of the myths all have giants who all predate like a very early point of the mythology. Like, the Greeks have giants with the Titans and the Hecatons and the Cyclops. Norse have giants with the frost giant, fire giants and everything. And I think even the Mesopotamian and the Sumerians had giant. Yeah, with oh, which one was it? The one with the king and the I think that was Sumerian. Oh no, Babylonian maybe. Um,
I think I know what you're talking about. I don't remember
the
the name.
oldest story with the
You're not talking about Gilgamesh, are you?
Gilgamesh is what I'm thinking of. Gilgamesh, his friend, was while not a giant, was described as being a taller, larger, bestial man type deal, and they fought
Oh yeah, the wild beast.
they fought with giant creatures.
Yeah, that's true. And well, to be fair, him and the beast became friends, but yeah, they did fight some sort of giant creatures.
They fought a giant that ultimately kind of ended the beast story. Spoilers for a 1,000-year-old story.
Yeah, right. That's fine. You know what? If some of the people who are Ancient Aliens fan want to go actually read Sumerian text, you can see just how much your ancient alien gods have been lying to you. Still annoyed about that. But yeah, so I think it's an interesting parallel. Now, to continue, according to the book of Enoch, the Nephilim caused so much turmoil that the people cried out to God about, how horrible everything was, and God responded with the flood. Now, the reason I wanted to mention this and to mention the previous statements about kind of what these non-canon books are is because this alternative narrative accomplishes two, I think, goals of the author. First, it justifies the flood as destroying these evil monsters. But if you notice, it also shifts blame from mankind to these abominations. So, in a way, the Book of Enoch is almost an early method of not taking any accountability for wickedness for mankind. It wasn't mankind, it was the evil monsters and the fallen angels, which says to me that this was definitely written by men more than any way divinely inspired. What do you think?
Yeah, because that was one of the big thing is the book of this whole Nephilim Watcher thing completely shift the blame because the original story is mankind got so wicked with their sin that
God regretted creating them.
yeah, God sent the flood to kind of wipe the slate clean. Whereas this one is there's a bunch of angels fell, had children with women, and created a strange
Super race.
offhand race that, if my memory was, the Nephilims was like seen as very barbaric, cannibalistic.
Well, they're also
evil.
said to be 400 feet tall. So.
Yeah.
That is in the Book of Enoch. It says 400 feet. Well, it says 400 some ancient measurement, which goes to about 400 feet tall. So they were big. It does not use cubits. But yeah, they were about. I think it uses something eels tall, but yeah, they were big uns. But yeah, it shifts the blame from mankind to these monsters, which I thought was kind of interesting. Because that's the thing, they talk about, oh, this was wiped out from the Bible. It's like, no, because the Nephilim are mentioned in the Bible in that one sentence. But this kind of expands it, and it basically says, oh, well, it wasn't because of mankind that God was annoyed. It was because of these creatures. And to me, that kind of sounds like dodging accountability.
Now,
To me.
I have heard a iteration where they said mankind was still evil, but at the same time they was working. I believe they said that the Watchers were sharing secrets of heaven with.
Yeah, we are going to get into that.
Okay, that was the other thing, was the Watchers were sharing secrets with mankind, and the
Yeah.
Nephilims was while being evil themselves was inspiring the humans to be even more evil.
Yeah, but it still kind of shifts
No, it
blame
does shift the
away.
blame.
Like it's really, it's the angels' fault for giving us this knowledge and all that stuff. So that's what I found kind of interesting, which makes me kind of see why they didn't include this in the Bible. Besides the 400-foot monsters.
Well, no, that's logical.
How is that logical?
I mean, they thought the elephant skull was Cyclops skull, so it made sense. You see an elephant skull,
Yeah,
a human can be 400 feet
but they
tall.
didn't say the Cyclopses were 400 feet tall.
No, but the Greeks thought they was really, really large.
Yeah, but really large can be a bit subjective.
They thought they were giants half the time.
Yeah, but comparatively they would. And we went through a whole video about there being problems when someone just goes over 9 feet tall. Remember, the Bible which only said Goliath was 10 feet tall at most. And there's description. And, there's some discrepancy with that.
We just gotta find a few bones of Nephilims, and then we'll be set.
I wonder if Nephilim bones glow. All right. But anyway, Enoch doesn't just give us more detail on the Nephilim. He really dives into the angels as well, showing a big contrast between the fallen Watchers and the righteous archangels. Go ahead and switch slides. To begin, the Watchers are also guilty of giving men forbidden knowledge, as you were mentioning. And this is a clear call. This is actually a very clear callback to the tree of knowledge. And the book gets specific, naming the angel Azazel, who taught men to make swords of iron. Then it told of the leader of the Watchers, Shemihaza. I don't know how to pronounce that. He's the one who led the angels down to earth, but who also taught the humans spells and magic. Again, not listed. And finally, well, no, it's not finally. There are more, but these are the 3 main ones. Cockable, oh, whatever.
Cockabell, I don't know.
Well, whatever. This one is the most wicked in my mind because he taught the humans astrology to gain hidden knowledge from the stars. And I agree, this teaching is evil. This nonsense is absolutely pure evil, which has stained mankind to this very day and been a headache upon all of our existence.
He brought them Sailor Moon.
Son of a bitch.
The whole time I'm looking at that table, the first thing I thought of was like, he brought them Sailor Moon.
He brought every obnoxious new age hippie saying, what's your astrological sign? Oh, the moon is in the way of your rays from Mars. Shut up, you bloody hippie. Take a shower.
Well, technically Venus is aligned, so it cancels out the movement of the moon.
I will hurt you!
Wow, that was fast.
Damn your astrology nonsense!
I gotta confer with the crystals on this one.
I will use those crystals to break an. I will use those crystals for what they could actually be useful for: arrowheads.
Oh, these
I
astrology
am not a
things.
fan of astrology.
You don't want to look to the stars for your future?
No, I don't want to look to hot burning balls of gas for the future.
There's a joke in there about the news and Congress, but I'm gonna take the high road and not make it.
Oh, they're definitely gas bags. Anyway, but I digress. You know, that was completely irrational explanation to that. Anyway, here we see they are responsible for ruining mankind. Again, taking away responsibility from man. So again, you see this shift. It wasn't mankind, it was the evil angels. Kind of seeing the pattern here?
Well, I mean, to be fair, you can make the same argument with Genesis. It wasn't mankind who first wanted to take the fruit. It was the serpent who led us
Well, it was a
astray.
serpent who tempted her, but she still chose, and Adam especially chose.
I just think we've been gaslit. I think first it was the snake, then it was the woman, and now here it's the angels.
You do realize this is exactly what Adam did, and he got kicked out of the garden because of it, right?
I'm just, you know what? Now I'm starting to see things in a different light. Maybe he was like, I think, you know what? This was entrapment.
That is what he said. That's exactly what he said.
Oh,
My God, since the Garden of Eden, we actually haven't changed.
well, now I know I'm at least related to him. Thousands of years we came to the same conclusion.
Oh God, nothing's changed.
Well, we know I would not last a couple of minutes in the car. This is entrapment. I didn't even know that serpent. Did you see which way that serpent went? It was a black serpent. I swear.
Oh God. You realize in this scenario, you named the serpent in the first place, right?
Yeah. I'm just thinking he also got all the serpents legless because of that.
Okay, go ahead and switch slides. All right, so what this leads to is God's response. And Enoch claims that God sent 4 archangels, each with a specific task. Now, Uriel was sent to warn Noah about the flood and prepare accordingly. In short, preparing the ark. Archangel Raphael was sent to a prison Aziel in hell and cast him forever into darkness. Gabriel was given the task to kill the Nephilim, and actually he was told rather to kill them a little brutally, because Enoch 10:9 says this, and to Gabriel said the Lord, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication and the children of the watchers from amongst men, and cause them to go forth, send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle, for length of days shall they not have. So, yeah, God wasn't messing around. Like, he told Gabriel, basically kill them and get them to kill each other. Little violent, even for God.
Get the children, especially the children. No younglings here.
Yeah, pretty much.
We just witnessed God's first Order 66. Order 1.
Actually, yeah. I mean, that's actually a pretty good description.
Oh, if I can.
I mean, you've got it on, for those watching on YouTube. I have the exact quote. That is what they said. Proceed against the bastard and reprobates. I mean, you tell me that's not Order 66.
It's just God queuing into a bunch of angels. Execute them.
I
You see
mean, kind of.
Get the lightsabers out.
And then we come to Michael, who was told to imprison Shemihaza. Okay, seriously, does anybody know how to pronounce that?
Shimihaza?
Shemihaza?
I mean,
how's that? I don't.
yeah, that's
All of our pronunciations have sounded the same to me.
All right.
I
Well,
don't know if
whatever.
there is.
Well, Michael was sent to deal with the angels. He had to imprison the head angels and his lead followers. So imprison the chief. So reading this, I do find it interesting that the angels like taking down of the monsters and the fallen angels are given to the two angels that are actually named in the Bible, or the most notable. I think that's kind of interesting, though. It is interesting that Uriel is sent to warn Noah when traditionally Gabriel is more of the messenger, and yet Michael is not sent to kill the Nephilim, though Michael is sent to imprison the angels, but Michael's seen more as the warrior. So I don't know. It's kind of strange. And Raphael is from a different book, which we'll be probably looking at in the next series, in the next one, that next video we do.
Shimyaza. That's how you pronounce it. Shimyaza.
Oh, okay. But yeah, what do you think about the angels and their assignments?
I think God had again. This kind of is fitting with Old Testament God. He really didn't take a lot of snuff from people.
No, to be fair, he did. It's just like, it's like, damn, he just went for it though.
What you mess with me? Okay, I guess we're gonna have to wipe the slate clean and start over again. This whole little humanity thing, it was cute and all, but no, they're worshiping. I don't know whether that guy keep worshiping a goat. That guy, he keep praying to the flower. I don't know why he keep talking to the flower like he's talking to me. Think it's a walkie-talkie. That guy. We can't even speak what he's doing. It's unspeakable right there. And oh my goodness. And wait, angels and humans mate? This is too much. I left the rules off. We gotta wipe this out. Delete this level. I gotta start fresh. I got a new save I can go off of. Maybe I can key into Mars. Maybe the Martians got things cleaned up over there.
Okay, before the Martians thing, you probably actually kind of had the Book of Enoch down.
Did you just equate what we've just been talking about to a video game?
Kind of.
Okay.
To be fair, Shadow R. Fox is not the first person to do that.
I'm sure he's not. I just wanted to make sure that I was hearing everything right.
I mean,
Yeah, no, you got it.
This is me in black and white. A game where you played as a god. I would look at what the people are doing. I would see them sitting there. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have to wipe the slate clean. We're gonna have to do a Sodom and Gomorrah here, clean it up. You know, just wipe it clean. Let's start fresh. We'll start fresh. This is, except rather than having angels, I had an actual Titan to go in and do my dirty work for me.
I mean, is it really that much of a difference?
It ate them. Yes, it was a little bit of a difference.
All right, fair enough.
I had my own pet Nephilim that I sent in to eat everyone. So that was the difference.
Well done. Though I do find it interesting, if Gabriel was sent in this to, kill the Nephilim and basically get them to fight each other, why did they need the flood?
You gotta be thorough.
I mean, I guess it just kind of seems like overkill.
Yeah. I respect God for going in for overkill. You don't, no, Look, I took my eyes off of Earth for a couple minutes, and look what we have now. Hedonism, heretics. Wipe this all clean. Take it all out. I mean, if there's even a child left, I didn't do a good job wiping this slate clean. We gotta fix this.
You wouldn't spare Noah, would you?
Well, look. I don't want to have to start this whole human thing all over from scratch. So I will at least keep a blank template of something laying around.
We are so gonna get charged with heresy.
No, you will. I've said nothing.
Fair enough. Yeah, because people who go after heretics are like so rational and easy to talk to.
I never said that.
You gotta be finding people agreeing with me. They're gonna be like, this Shadow All Fox, he got the right idea.
Okay, let's switch slides. Okay, so with that, we have the final bit of notable information in the Book of Enoch when it comes to angels, the mention of the 7 archangels. Now, Enoch lists them as Michael, who he states oversees human virtue and commands nations. Raphael, who is responsible for the spirits of humans. Gabriel, who is sent to deal with powerful destructive spirits. Uriel, who rules over the world and the underworld of Tartarus, or hell, or whatever you want to consider it. Raguel, whatever, who enforces divine judgment. Remiel, who is responsible for the resurrection of the righteous, and Sariel, who watches over spirits who have sinned. So, yeah, any notes or thoughts on Enoch's 7 archangels?
Yeah, is there a reason that the angel who was responsible for enforcing divine judgment was clearly named after us?
No.
Okay.
I'm trying to see the Reuel.
Which one, Remiel or Raguel? Raguel?
I was making a stupid ragu joke.
Yeah.
No, I knew you were making.
No, I was looking up how to pronounce it.
Oh, how to pronounce it?
Yeah.
Oh God, I have no freaking clue.
Yeah, Google was giving it.
I was just making a dumb joke.
As
honestly, your dumb joke's as good as anything else.
Yeah, Google is giving it to me as 3-syllable RE-OO-EL.
Rehuel?
Rahuel is, yeah.
Yeah, sure, why not?
And they say more commonly Ragul is how some people pronounce it, 2-syllable.
Well, yeah, because that's what it looks like.
Yeah, but I think the first one, the Rahuel, is how is a closer attempt.
So what I'm hearing is, if you eat ragu, you will be judged.
You know what? As an Italian, that is fair.
Okay, yeah, that's what I got. I can claim
that is fair as an Italian. If you.
That's what I got out of it, because ragu is pretty low key sauce.
It's the lowest. It's the most well known, which of course just means that it's technically the lowest quality.
I mean, it really is. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm sorry for all of you ragu lovers out there. It's shit. Like,
I'm sorry. The better sauce costs what? Maybe $3 more.
Yeah, it's worth it. That sauce. Just like, I tried it once, it was gross. I regret ever purchasing it. Okay.
Interesting that Gabriel is the one sent to deal with the destructive spirits.
Yeah, I found that interesting too.
You would assume that would go to Michael, since he's
the one in the Bible who does this. Yeah.
Yeah, most incarnation regard Michael as the fighter of the angels.
Yeah, no, I found that interesting too. I think that's also one of the reasons that it kind of contradicts biblical canon. But I guess they had to give Gabriel more than just messenger. Or maybe they just really like the name Gabriel. I don't know.
I also find it interesting they mentioned the underworld.
Yeah.
Seem to
again, that's the problem. Is these
confusion with hell, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the problem. Especially, this is before the New Testament, so that's the thing. Hell shouldn't be a concept yet. Hell doesn't come later until the New Testament. Before this, it's Shila or Shaba or something like. It's some Sh sound, which is basically a place of eternal darkness. Which we can do a video on that one day. The differences of Christian and Jewish hell and the contrast between the lake of fire. But that's, regardless, that word really shouldn't be there, and shows some of the mixing in with later. And again, why this book is so discontested by people who actually study biblical lore and see what belongs and what doesn't. And this greatly contradicts quite a few things, as we've kind of seen. But again, that's kind of the interesting part. So, yeah, those are the 7 archangels mentioned in the Book of Enoch. So that's one thing that it actually does mention, unlike the alphabet and other things. Okay, so now as far as the angel's appearance, Enoch does not offer anything new with angels as far as their appearance, simply equating them with fire and able to appear in human form. So he offers very little to their actual, physical structure. He actually does mention cherub and Ophium, but doesn't give any more description than we find in the book of Ezekiel, again, seeming like he kind of copied from other sources. And that more or less completes the information on angels offered by the book of Enoch. So I guess when we look into this, the real question is the real question that comes in regard to the Book of the Watchers, to this Book of Enoch. And I want you guys to I want both of you to think about this, is imagine if you lived in the Bronze Age and you wanted to know more about angels, about the Nephilim and things like that, much, well, like us today, would this have satisfied your curiosity?
It's definitely more than the regular books of the Bible.
Right. Like Zed, if you had been more curious about this, would this have satisfied your curiosity, or just led you with more questions?
It probably would have left me with a couple questions, but I think for the most part it would have satisfied.
Right. So, but it does show kind of what's interesting is that what this does show, while definitely not biblical canon, while definitely just written by man, it shows kind of how people interpreted angels. So it's interesting to see how this compares with even our own interpretation of angels over the years from biblical canon. How they're enforced. Now, I think they embellished more, where we tried to stick with basic facts, but they got the fiery part right. They got that there's got to be some kind of hierarchy, that they are messengers, and that sometimes God doesn't take shit. Which I think they embellished a bit more for literary and for entertainment values, and I think that's where you get more of the fantastical elements. But you can definitely see the thought process where they were trying to glean more from, let's face it, vagueness, if you will. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. And believe it or not, that's pretty much to do with the Book of Enoch. Shadow Fox, I knew you were really looking forward to this. A little disappointed?
I mean, I already knew a lot of the stuff, mainly because the Book of Enoch is, even though it's non-canonical, it is the only thing that really goes into, with many of the other religions, or mythos, I should say, the Greek pantheon, the Norse pantheon, the Egyptian pantheon, the Mesoamerican pantheon, the Sumerian, Babylonian pantheons, they always have a more mythical side to them, which you get that from the Old Testament, but the Book of Enoch actually do have more of something we would expect to see from a Greek or Norse mythology, where there is a type of higher being or mythological creature that or a almost demigod or deity like figure that has relation with a human, that make a strange monster demigod offspring that is more powerful than the humans, and usually it's the gods or a demigod that has to deal with it. In this case, the angels.
That's true.
So it's very close to the whole. It's very similar to like a Greek, or Norse, or more the traditional pagan mythos with these stories.
Yeah, and I think that's also, again, a good description of the tone difference. About it's not, people are saying the Book of Enoch is not in the Bible because it has forbidden knowledge and it encourages free thought. And it's like, no, that's not it at all. It's because its tone difference is so separate from the Bible that it's clear that it's not really even part of the work. That it's just, it's again, just describing just the way it talks, the way its description is just so different. It's like if you were trying to replace Return of the King and Lord of the Rings with Return of the Jedi. It's such a difference in tone and story structure that it sticks out like a sore thumb.
To be fair, you get that tone difference going from Old Testament, New Testament with God.
Not as much as you think.
Old Testament God was more smiting was most smite happy than New Testament, when New Testament is willing to send his own son.
Well, okay, so that's actually a little bit of a misconception. God was a bit more strict in the Old Testament. That is true.
Yes.
He was more strict, but also is that while he did smite and do things, he didn't do as much as people like really put on him. And several things he even says why he did it.
No.
It was an attempt to protect, but to be fair, it also was told in the Old Testament quite often that he was going to send the Messiah, his son, the Son of Man. And that's one thing that Jesus was the fulfillment of the promise, or the fulfillment of the law, because he was the law of Moses fulfilled.
I guess what I should clarify is take how many, granted, it's not that many, but take how many times he is most strict by, punishing a whole town or a whole community, or taking direct action. I guess I should say taking direct action as being involved, versus New Testament, not as much direct action, not as much direct involvement or direct strictness to breaking of the rules.
Well, I mean, kind of.
In some ways, yeah, you can argue. Like, let me put it this way: there's no Sodom and Gomorrah in the New Testament.
You're right. There is no Sodom and Gomorrah, but to be fair, Christ is actually there, and he's saying that you are going to be damned to hell if you don't do this. So,
yes.
A little worse than just death.
To be fair, but they were saying that in the original as well in the Old Testament.
No, they were saying that in the original too. But yeah, Christ was there to give a hope. This is basically God is kind of saying that, okay, can you guys really not get to heaven without a cheat code? And the answer is yes. So, I mean, that's essentially what Christ is the ultimate cheat code, to where, because none of us are good enough to really get into heaven. So all we literally have to do is admit that we're not good enough, believe in Christ and his resurrection, and we get into heaven. It is quite literally a cheat code.
I guess the better way to say it, as far as we know, he hasn't kicked off death by fire yet. So he hasn't done another purge of the world, which was supposed to be by fire.
Yeah, and, well, again, that's why the tone shifts, because remember, after he did that, he did say he'd never do that again.
Well, and then he also said next time it will be by fire.
Yeah, that was later on, though. That's the final judgment.
Yeah, but I believe he said next time I destroy the world, it would be by fire. Was in that same thing.
And it'll be the final time where I'm not saving anybody.
Yes, exactly. That's why I was like...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. It's like, the tones... Definitely, God became less strict in the New Testament, but the tone is still the same. Like, it's more of kind of apparent... The shift is more of a definite character growth of a parent understanding how to deal with, let's face it, unruly kids, versus a complete 180 character shift. It's, it's like the difference between Luke Skywalker in A New Hope versus Return of the Jedi.
True.
That's a good way to describe it.
True. I'm trying to think of what's the equivalent of a parent using a flood to wipe out everything. This is the difference of your parents grounding you being the New Testament versus
No, I've got it. I know, sorry, not to interrupt, but I know what you're saying. It's like a parent when you're very little, they spank you, and then later on, they tell you not to do it and ground you.
No, I was thinking more later on, they ground you. Previously, they take everything out your room, so you only got like a sleeping bag in the room, and then they say good night.
Well, yeah, but either way, because it's a maturity level thing in that point.
Yeah, but it's also a more extreme of how you deal with that.
Yeah, no, it is more extreme, but like you could argue they needed more extreme to understand. If that
True.
makes sense.
True. It
'Cause-
just always struck me as very there was a slight strictness change in his policy going forward, in the sense of he wasn't as like outside of, yes, I know I'm kind of downplaying Jesus, but he wasn't directly as involved with miracles. We didn't get any Exodus type deals. We didn't get any type of him almost, guiding things forward with like David and Goliath, and he was less active in New Testament, I guess I should say, in taking direct,
Well, active in different ways. So, like, this is more
not
of
as showy, I guess I should say.
yeah, no, I would agree, and not as showy. And I think that again goes more with progression, because each time he tried to be showy, let's face it, we kind of fucked it up. Because like a good example is when the Jews come out of Egypt. Moses goes, let's see here. Let's really put because this always bothered me. The Jews just got out of Egypt after God sent 10 miraculous plagues to get them out, split the Red Sea to guide them, and then Moses says, "Hey, chill here. I'm going up to get God's commandments." And instead of chilling, they build a fucking calf of gold and start worshiping it.
Makes sense. Well, look, one God got us out, but if we pray to the golden cow God, we may have milk while we're in the desert. And I'm thirsty. Admit it, the logic probably wasn't that much better than mine right now.
Probably not.
It was probably something. They never do give a good justification in the Bible on why they did that.
No, they really don't.
Because I remember the Bible, I think, just say they decided to melt down all the gold and make a golden calf and worship
they forced Joshua to do it, but essentially, yes. They never really say why
They never do go into detail why. And I can only admit that the reason they didn't go into detail is this something so stupid that when they were writing this down, they were like, you know what? Let's not include that. Let's just we made a golden cow. It was a bad move. Let's not go into the detail why. Let's just
let's be honest. We sound bad enough with this. This is bad enough.
And we made a golden cow because we thought golden milk would flow from it. You know what? We're writing that down. I don't know why we ever thought that was a good idea.
You know what? I could see that actually. But yeah, you see, they did that, and like, what frickin' happened? They literally started worshiping a frickin' I would have literally been like, I just rescued you from Egypt. I split the damn sea for you, and you're worshiping a cow?
Well, that's why
not even a real freaking cow.
That's why Moses broke the tablet.
Exactly. He was pissed. I don't blame him.
I never did give Moses anything for breaking the tablet. I'm like, no, that's a fair freak out. That's a fair.
No, that's a good freak. I admit that. Then, let's continue it. God told them, give you judges that are going to decide things. Listen to the judges. And, the people got sick of it and said, we don't want judges. We want a king like the other people.
And
bad idea. And then they got a king. And Saul was given instructions. What did Saul do? He disobeyed. And then, they gave it to David. And what did they do? It's like, David's going to be king instead. What did they do? They tried to kill David. And then David disobeyed. And then Solomon disobeyed. Like, that's the thing. It's like every time God tried to be strict, it kept showing, it's like, okay, this really isn't working.
You know what really worked? The flood.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to bring another one.
The guy kind of promised he wouldn't do that. So that's the thing, is like the tone shift is not so much like God like being two different people. It's more of him figuring out the best ways to deal with us, if that makes more sense.
I'm just thinking it's lucky that, I wasn't like an angel or something, because I would have been like,
oh, God help us all.
Look, God, you said no flood, and next time fire. you didn't say anything about ice. Why don't we just do an ice age and just, just knock a couple of them out and then thaw everything out? And I think they may get the point then.
Maybe this explains the Ice Age.
A couple times, actually. Maybe that's why I'm here now. Maybe they're like, we can't keep this guy around. He keep giving some bad ideas about dealing with humanity.
So they made you human just to get rid of you.
You know what? Funny enough, there's been a couple people who told me that heaven doesn't want you and hell sure as shit don't want you. So maybe that's why we're stuck with you.
That makes sense. Makes perfect sense. All right, and with that deep dive into theology, out of curiosity, though, did you know about the Enochian alphabet not being part of the Book of Enoch?
It doesn't surprise me because I was thinking, how will you properly write that into a book of the that's supposed to be in the Bible?
Okay, yeah, but because that is a common misconception. That's a myth, but I was just curious. Okay, and with that, let's end this on a much-needed lighter note and turn it over to Zed. Zed, basically, there's not much description when it comes to angels with the Book of Enoch, so I just told you, go nuts with the fire. Is that
you just asked for? Yes, that is Rotom. That is a fire type.
It looks like an easy bake oven.
Yeah,
it is. It's oven. It's an oven. It's an electric.
It's an easy bake oven with its own oven mitts.
It is an electric spirit that took over an oven.
So,
hey,
Japan
just be glad you didn't ask for anything cold, or you would have gotten a fridge.
So Japan got so lazy they literally gave an oven some oven mitts and made it into a Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
they got so lazy that
ironically, this was from a time when they said they weren't lazy with the designs.
No, they got so lazy the creator couldn't think of another Pokemon. Then he saw his daughter playing with an easy bake oven and created it into a Pokemon. That is its origin story.
And maybe I don't actually know how they made all of the forms of this thing.
I will bet you it's something close to that. And
well, no, because it's. Sorry, which one?
Is that Cubone with fire bones?
Yes.
Yeah, they made it. Well, no, Marowak. They made a different Marowak and made it fire type, and it's
the Alolan or Hawaiian version of Marowak. Apparently, is like a ghost type that like to summon things with its flaming bone or something like that.
Is that cultural appropriation?
Because I know the whole thing is basically the Hawaiian fire spinners. That's literally Marowak. That's what he was based off of. And it probably is, but Pokemon always get passed on it.
Yeah.
And then we got a candle and a lantern and a chandelier.
Natural progression, I see it.
And we got Moltres, and then we got, I think, Galarian Moltres.
Galarian Moltres, which ironically is not fire type.
What?
Oh, it's not?
No, it's dark flying, I think.
So those flame-like thing are probably darkness.
Yeah. Actually, I think there's an explanation for it. Hang on.
Pink feathers?
Oh, they're not feathers!
Well, you said they can't be flame.
Just because they can't be flame doesn't mean that they're feathers. Alright, let's see here.
How do you make Moltres not fire?
It says it has a sinister flame-like aura.
Okay, flame-like, so fire.
So its aura blazes as if it's fire.
Okay, so it's still
it's darkness.
Okay.
Does it learn any fire moves? I actually have to know if this would learn.
And we got Googly Eye Goldfish.
I thought it was just a koi fish with googly eyes.
Okay. Actually, the eyes are beads that the fire came out of, and formed a fish for some. I don't know why they formed a fish, but
Yeah, whatever works, I guess.
Ironically, that is the most fire-like because its body is just fire.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
Makes about as much sense as a pile of sludge or a sentient Pokeball.
So when God said death by fire, he meant fire Pokemon, right? This is
Yeah, yes, he meant that you get shoved into the Rotom oven. That's exactly what he meant.
a death of our own making by fire. An easy bake oven.
Okay, end it before we think of anything else stupid to say,
Okay,
please.
anything Alchemist before I end?
Nope, I got nothing.
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess catch you all next time.